In July 1991, one of the richest men in America signed a piece of paper. 3 words at the top of that paper: power of attorney. What those 3 words meant, in practice, was that he had just handed another man complete legal control over his personal fortune, the ability to sign checks in his name, buy property in his name, move money, make investments, execute deals, all of it without asking permission, without requiring a second signature. One piece of paper, and it would eventually cost him at least $200 million. The man who signed that document was Les Wexner, founder of Victoria's Secret, L Brands, Bath & Body Works, Abercrombie & Fitch, one of the most successful retail billionaires in American history. The man he handed it to was Jeffrey Epstein, a college dropout with no verified clients, no audited returns, no real explanation for where his money came from. And for 15 years, Epstein had the legal authority to do almost anything he wanted with one of the largest private fortunes in the United States. This video is not about Epstein's crimes. You already know about those. This video is about the document, how one legal instrument that millions of Americans sign every year without understanding it became the financial engine behind everything that followed, and what it means for your money right now. To understand why the power of attorney matters so much, you first need to understand who Jeffrey Epstein was before Les Wexner, because the answer is not much. He dropped out of college twice. He somehow talked his way into teaching at the Dalton School, one of Manhattan's most prestigious private schools, despite having no teaching credentials and no degree. He reportedly told them he had qualifications he did not have. They hired him anyway. From Dalton, he parlayed a connection to a student's parent into a job at Bear Stearns, one of the most powerful investment banks on Wall Street. Again, no degree, no formal qualifications, just confidence, and the right conversation at the right time. Here is what Epstein understood that most people do not. Credibility is not the same as credentials. Credentials are things you have: degrees, licenses, certifications. Credibility is what people believe about you, and credibility can be manufactured with the right clothes, the right address, the right name to drop in conversation. Epstein understood this before he understood anything else about finance. And when he eventually met Les Wexner, he found the ultimate source of manufactured credibility: a real billionaire who would vouch for him. Let us talk about what a power of attorney actually is. Because most Americans have heard of it, very few understand what it actually does. A power of attorney, also called a POA, is a legal document that gives one person the legal authority to act on behalf of another person. The person giving the authority is called the principal. The person receiving it is called the agent. As the agent, depending on what the document says, you can sign contracts, access bank accounts, buy and sell property, make investment decisions, transfer assets, hire and fire people, enter into legal agreements, all in someone else's name, without them being present, without them signing anything. Legally, completely binding. There are different types of power of attorney. A limited power of attorney covers specific transactions. Example, you are overseas. You give someone limited POA to close on a house in your absence. Once the house closes, the authority ends. Specific, contained, safe. A general power of attorney covers almost everything. Broad authority, no defined endpoint, no transaction limit. Whoever holds it can act on your behalf across your entire financial life. In 1991, Les Wexner gave Jeffrey Epstein a general power of attorney over his personal fortune, which at the time was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Wexner said he gave Epstein this authority so that Epstein could, and I am using Wexner's own words here, execute transactions quickly without constantly requiring my signature. That is a reasonable explanation. It is also the explanation of a man who trusted the wrong person completely, because what Wexner signed in 1991 was essentially a blank check with his name on it, in someone else's hand. The first thing Epstein did with the power of attorney was buy property. In 1989, before he even had the formal POA document, Wexner transferred his Manhattan townhouse to Epstein. 9 East 71st Street, 9 stories, Upper East Side, one of the most valuable addresses in New York City. The transfer was structured through a $10 million promissory note, meaning, on paper, Epstein owed Wexner $10 million for the property. In practice, he lived there, for free, for years, and that property became the base of his entire operation. Then he bought a home near Wexner's estate in New Albany, Ohio, $3.5 million, 1992. This positioned him as a neighbor, a peer, a trusted associate, not an employee. Then a mansion in Palm Beach, Florida, near Mar-a-Lago, near the social circuit of the wealthiest Americans on the East Coast. Then, in 1998, a private island, Little St. James, U.S. Virgin Islands, which became the most infamous private island in American history. But here is what those properties actually did. They were not just homes, they were credibility. When you live in a 9-story townhouse on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, people assume you are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. When you own a private island in the Caribbean, people assume you have the kind of wealth that cannot be questioned. And when you have a general power of attorney from a real billionaire, you can present yourself to the world as that billionaire's most trusted associate. Epstein used Wexner's money to buy an image, then used that image to attract more money from people who believed the image. And somewhere in that loop, he started keeping money that was not his. In 2007, 16 years after signing that power of attorney, Wexner's wife Abigail took over the family finances. What she found when she looked at the accounts was that Epstein had stolen or misappropriated hundreds of millions of dollars. Wexner's own words: "Epstein had stolen vast sums from our family. Instead of going to the police, they hired a private attorney, negotiated a quiet settlement, and in January 2008, Epstein returned $100 million, which his own lawyers described as just a portion of what he had taken." In 1996, Epstein moved his firm to the U.S. Virgin Islands. This was not a lifestyle choice. It was a financial architecture decision. The U.S. Virgin Islands sits in a unique legal position. It is a U.S. territory, meaning you have access to the American banking system, American legal protections, American courts. But it also offers tax incentives that are not available on the mainland. Qualifying businesses have historically paid tax rates as low as 3.5%, compared to the federal corporate rate of 21%, or the top individual rate of 37%. The structure Epstein used was not illegal. Moving a business to a low-tax territory is something thousands of American companies do every year. Apple does it. Amazon does it. Every major hedge fund has an offshore structure of some kind. The difference between Epstein's offshore structure and theirs is not the structure. It is what the structure was protecting. Epstein's offshore accounts held money from Wexner, money from unnamed clients whose identities have never been fully confirmed, and money whose origin, to this day, is not entirely clear. The Virgin Islands structure meant those accounts were harder to see, harder to audit, harder to trace, which is exactly what he needed. Here is what I want you to take from this. Not a warning about Epstein. Not a warning about trusting the wrong person with your money. You already know that part. The 3 finance lessons from this story are more specific than that, and they apply to people who will never have $1 billion. Lesson 1. The general power of attorney is one of the most dangerous documents in American law. Every year, millions of Americans sign a power of attorney for aging parents, for a spouse deployed overseas, for a business partner, often without fully reading what it authorizes. Here is what you need to know before you ever sign one. A general POA gives broad authority over almost everything. Use it sparingly, and only with someone whose honesty you could stake your life on. A limited POA is almost always safer. It defines exactly what the agent can and cannot do. Specific transactions, specific time periods, specific accounts. When the task is done, the authority expires. A durable POA remains effective if you become incapacitated. This one is important for estate planning, but it needs an attorney who specializes in this area, not a form you download for free online. Lesson 2. Anyone managing your money should be auditable. Always. Whether it is a financial advisor, a family member, or a business partner, anyone who has access to your money should be producing a paper trail you can verify. Monthly statements, transaction records, account access you can check independently. Wexner trusted Epstein so completely that he did not review his own finances for over a decade. That is not a problem unique to billionaires. That is a human problem. We trust the people we trust, and we stop checking. Set a calendar reminder. Once a quarter, log in. Look at every account. Not because you expect to find something wrong, but because the act of checking is itself a protection. People who know they are being watched behave differently. Lesson 3. Your financial blind spots are exactly where you get hit. Wexner was not a stupid man. He built a multi-billion-dollar retail empire. He was operationally brilliant, but his blind spot was his personal finances. He was so focused on building his business that he outsourced his financial life entirely and told himself that was the smart, efficient thing to do. Your blind spot might be different. Maybe it is your 401k. You set it up once and never looked at the fees. Maybe it is a joint account where you do not track individual transactions. Maybe it is a business partnership where you trust the other person to handle the books. The blind spot is always the same. It is the place you stopped looking because you decided you could trust. Here is the truth about the Epstein story that nobody covers. What made it possible was not that Epstein was unusually clever. What made it possible was that the financial system has gaps, trust gaps, visibility gaps, documentation gaps, and those gaps exist in every financial relationship, not just between billionaires and their money managers, between you and your financial advisor, between you and a family member you gave account access to, between you and the employer managing your retirement plan. Les Wexner was not naive. He was human, and the financial system rewards the people who understand it over the people who trust it. Know what a power of attorney does before you sign one. Audit anyone who manages your money every quarter, no exceptions. Find your financial blind spot, then look directly at it, because the people who want access to your money are already looking for it. The Epstein story is wild. It is infuriating. It is hard to look away from. But the most useful thing about it is not the drama. It is the document. 3 words that changed everything. Know your documents. Know your accounts. Know exactly who has access to what. That is how you stay on the right side of this story. If this one got you, subscribe, because the next video is about something that is happening to you right now. Not Epstein, not Wexner. It will amaze you.